£466 billion is the amount of wealth accounted for by the 50 richest families in the UK. 466 billion is also the total amount of wealth owned by the bottom 50% of the UK wealth distribution. That's 33.5 million people who, between them, have the same wealth as just 50 families. After falling for much of the 20th century, wealth inequality started rising again in the 1980s, which has real effects on the rest of us, because wealth is a claim on the resources of society, and so, in a society characterised by wealth inequality, more resources will be moved towards meeting the private needs of the wealthy, which takes resources away from satisfying the needs of the rest of us. One proposal that has been put forward to deal with this problem is the imposition of a wealth tax in the UK. For example, the group Tax Justice UK estimate that a 1 to 2% wealth tax on assets over £10 million would only affect 0.04% of the population and could raise £22 billion a year. Those who argue against wealth taxes put forward two principal objections. The first is that the imposition of wealth taxes will lead to tax avoidance and capital flight by the rich. In other words, they'll take their money out of the country, which will make the tax much less effective than anticipated. The second is that the imposition of a wealth tax would be administratively burdensome, as valuing the assets of the ultra-rich would not be straightforward. Even taking account of these difficulties, an LSE study found that an annual wealth tax of 1.12%, odd number, would raise somewhere between 8.7 and 9.9 million pounds. Although it recommends that reforming existing taxes that target wealth might be a better way of raising annual revenue, which is also the conclusion reached by left-leaning economists Richard Murphy, who argues that it would be much more efficient to tax the income derived from wealth rather than trying to tax the wealth directly. Another idea that gets around tax avoidance and capital flight is to impose a one-off wealth tax that the rich can't anticipate and would find it very difficult to avoid. There are lots of ways of implementing this idea, but according to the LSE paper I cited earlier, a progressive one-off wealth tax targeting all millionaires could raise a staggering £250 billion at a stroke. We're living in a country where a Labour government is justifying policies that take money away from the most vulnerable in our society because, it argues, difficult choices are unavoidable. So why won't they even consider trying a one-off wealth tax to bring in revenue to fund any number of ambitious policies that would benefit the vast majority? Let me know what you think in the comments. For now, goodbye and best wishes.